Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Nedarim. We are up to Perek Bet Mishnah Hey. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelo ben Chana bad Miriam Menuchatam began Eden Amen and Avdir ben Chaim Nachaim v'derefua shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betok Shachurei Israel. The previous Mishnah taught that if a person made an unclear neder and then explained what he meant, he is believed. This Mishnah teaches that if the person is a Torah scholar, we accept even explanations that are far-fetched. Nadar becherem v'amar lo nadarti ela bechermo shel yam. If someone made a neder that linked the object of the neder to a cherem, but later said, I vowed only in reference to a sea net, a net for trapping fish in the sea, as opposed to a cherem for the temple, because the word cherem can also mean a net. Bekoban v'amar lo nadarti el bekobanot shel melachim, or if someone made a neder that linked an object to an offering, but later said, I vowed only in reference to offerings, to gifts brought to human kings, as opposed to an offering to God. Harei atzmi korban v'amar lo nadarti el be'etzem shinachti li liyot noder bo, or if someone said atzmi, which usually means myself, is like a korban to so-and-so, apparently intending to forbid the other person from having benefit from him, but later said, I vowed only in reference to an etzem, a bone of an animal, that I set aside to refer to when I make a neder. So according to this interpretation, atzmi means my bone. He kept the bone so that he could use it to fool someone. For example, a person whom he wishes to avoid into thinking that he is making a neder. Kona mishti ne'enit li v'amar lo nadarti ela b'ishti rishona shegirashti. Or if someone said, Konam, that which my wife benefits from me, apparently intending to forbid his wife from having benefit from him, but later said, I vowed only in reference to my first wife whom I had divorced. Al kulan en nishalina, regarding all of these vows, it is not necessary to ask a court to annul them, because we believed his explanation. As long as the interpretation fits his language, it is acceptable and the neder does not take effect. Now this rule applies when the person is a Torah scholar who will not lie. If an ignorant person Ha'aretz gives a far-fetched explanation of a neder that he made, we do not believe him. Rather, the neder stands and cannot be lifted except by means of annulment. Since the explanation is unlikely, we suspect that he had the forbidden meaning in mind when he made the neder and is now lying. The neder must therefore be treated as valid. However, even an Ha'aretz is believed to give a reasonable explanation, such as those cited in the previous Mishnah. V'im nishalu, and if the ignorant people ask the court to nullify nedarim of this type, after they had already violated them, onshinotan u'machmirin aleen, we punish them with excommunication for having violated their nedarim, and we deal with them stringently by limiting the ways in which the neder can be annulled. Div Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Now, although the Mishnah says if they asked a court to nullify, they are excommunicated whether they asked a court or not. And it is not enough for the Ha'aretz to say that he regrets having made the neder. Rather, the court must find the consequence of the neder that he did not consider at the time, and that would have deterred him from making the neder had he thought of it. That's the annulling of the court. And again, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. The Mishnah says again, we punish them with excommunication for having violated their nedarim, and we deal with them stringently by limiting the ways in which the neder can be annulled. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages say, Potchin lahem petach mekom acher, we may open an opening for them from another place, meaning we may annul the nedarim by any means, we may annul it by any means, including regret alone. It is unnecessary to find an unintended consequence. Now the words we may open an opening from another place are used differently in this Mishnah from the way they are used in Mishnah 1. Now the sages also disagree with the Rabbi Meir's first ruling, that Tamar is excommunicated for violating his neder. According to the sages, he is not punished. And we teach them that it is wrong to make these neder-like statements so that they will not treat nedarim lightly in the future. This refers even to Torah scholars, and a person should not play with language to trick people into thinking that he is making a neder, because he thereby makes a mockery of nedarim. The Rav does tell us that halacha follows the opinion of the sages. That is an abotai of Perek Bet Mishnah Hey. We continue now with Perek Gimel Mishnah Aleph. The sages permitted the following 4 types of nedarim, meaning any of these nedarim is automatically invalid, even without an expert or a court declaring it to be so, as the Gemara says on page 21, Masechet Nedarim. Nidre zeruzin, nedarim of persuasion, which are intended to serve only as means of persuasion, not as real nedarim. V'nidrei havai, nedarim of exaggeration, which are not meant to be taken literally. V'nidrei shegagot, nedarim of mistakes, which are based on a mistake. V'nidrei onasim, and nedarim of unavoidable circumstances, which involve conditions that are outside a person's control. The four categories are explained in the next four Mishnayot. Now, the reason these nedarim are invalid is that they are made without intent to actually create a prohibition. It is not enough for someone to say the words of a neder. He must also have intent for it, what we call piv v'libo shavin, the mouth and the heart being the same. If he does not have the required intent, the neder is ineffective. The rabbis decreed that although these nedarim do not take effect, a person is forbidden to make one of them unless he plans to keep it. Examples are given of each category, beginning with nedarim of persuasion. Nidrei zeruzin ketzad. What is an example of nedarim of persuasion? Hayam mocher chefetz v'mal konam sheni poched lecha min hasela. Someone was selling an object and he said to the buyer, my loaf of bread shall be forbidden like a konam to me if I lower the price of this object for you to less than a sela, which is 4 dinars. And the buyer said, my loaf of bread shall be forbidden like a konam to me if I raise my offer to you to more than a shekel, which is 2 dinars. In fact, both of them want the price to be 3 dinars, and each one made his offer only as a bargaining position to pretend that it is his absolutely final offer. He backed it up with a neder. It is understood that he did not intend his neder to take effect, and that he used it only to persuade the other party to compromise. Normally, after a person makes a neder, he cannot claim that he did not want it to take effect, because we assume that at the time of the neder he meant what he said. However, it is common for a buyer and seller to haggle over the price in this manner, so each one's intent is known even without his saying it. So in situations of this type, although someone said the words of a neder, it is understood that he did not mean them. Another example of a neder of persuasion, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, this category includes even someone who wants to impose a neder on another person so that the second person will eat with him. The case is that one person invited another to eat with him, but the latter refused, and the inviter then made a neder saying that he forbids the other person to have any benefit from him if he does not eat with him. Here too it is clear that the inviter did not actually intend the neder to take effect, and he was using it only as means of persuasion. The inviter clearly had no intent to create a prohibition, because the person will not go so far as to make his possessions prohibited to another just because the latter will not eat with him. According to Tana Kama, though, the neder does take effect because we assume that he did mean what he said. It's Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Chachamim. The Mishnah leaves its main subject and deals with another situation where neder does not take effect because the person does not want it to. Omer, if someone wants to nullify all nedarim that he might make in the future, he says at the beginning of the year or any other time that he chooses, Kol neder she'ani atid lidor hu batel, any neder that I make in the future shall be void. This declaration works provided that it is remembered at the time of the neder. Even though he remembers the declaration, he might still want to say the neder in order to make an impression on members of his family for the purpose of inspiring them to do what is right. If he does not remember the declaration when he says the neder, and certainly if he nullifies the declaration, the neder takes effect. Now, our version of the Mishnah's text follows one opinion cited in the Gemara on page 23b in Masechet Nedarim. According to a different view, the Mishnah reads, "Ubelvad shelo yezachu b'shat neder." This declaration works provided that it is not remembered at the time of the neder, and this is the accepted halacha. And the Shulchan Aruch discusses this in Yoreh De'ah, chapter 210, halacha 2. Now, the law stated in the Mishnah is the basis for the prayer of Kol Nidrei, where we nullify any nedarim we might make in the coming year, which is said on the night of Yom Kippur. And the Rav does tell us, Halakha Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, the Halakha follows the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.